I'll try to illustrate this with the camera up on the bench first and see how it works. Try to get a good view of everything in this area so you can see what I've got I'm working with. I'll explain the stuff that I got laying here first. This is the Snuffer Tamer V-block, and this is made by True Angle Homes Incorporated, and this is a really neat system here. It's the best way that I've found so far for sharpening snuffers. I kind of struggled with it for the first season, and basically what I was doing was I had this small mill bastard file. That's about I don't have a tape measure handy, but that's about an 8-inch file, I suppose. And how I was doing it before was this little short piece of shaft here, and I'd screw my broadhead on it, and basically with cradling this in the edge of my vise to kind of hold it, I was working two blades at the same time just by keeping the file flat across the blades, counting my strokes, turn it, do the same thing, turn it, same thing, count the strokes, and keep working that until I got the raw factory angle honed down to a nice flat even angle, which I have no idea what angle it was. It was whatever angle I ended up with by keeping this file flat on both blades, which is kind of tough to keep the file flat on both blades because sometimes you can feel it cutting one blade and not the other. And I'm sure, you know, through some of those strokes on this blade, I was hitting harder on one blade than the other, so it was kind of a hit and miss way of doing it. And you know, yeah, I made them sharp enough to hunt with, but they just never were really sharp enough to satisfy me. It's not what I would call hair popping sharp, and that's what you're looking for in a super sharp broadhead for hunting. It does a world for your a world of difference for your confidence in what you've got there on the tip of your arrow shaft, knowing that that broadhead will shave hair off of your arm. Then that leaves no doubt in your mind that it's going to cut everything that it can possibly cut when it goes through an animal, and that's what you're looking for. So I just recently acquired this system, and basically you get the block, the files, and the leather block here, same angle as what this is set at, and I believe the paperwork says it's a 24-degree angle, and the block here with the leather strops glued onto it, same angle, and it's perfect on a snuffer because it cradles on there. Both those blades are riding on the file perfectly flat, and you see there's a little gap here in the center between the two files, and try to keep that tip of the broadhead in between there in that gap so both blades are even on these files. And actually the two broadheads that I cleaned up yesterday with it, you don't notice much of anything at all on the tip that hasn't been cleaned up afterwards. And at that point, if you want to, I don't think it's really necessary because the tips are very sharp to start with. You could hit that with a hand file right on the tips, clean those up if that's what you like to do. Some guys also like to bevel the tip on these to make them a little more blunt rather than have such a sharp pointed tip. They want more of a chiseled tip, and they'll take that and drag it backwards on a big heavy file to kind of put a, I guess it would be like a Tonto point or maybe a trocar shaped point on the tip of those snuffers. I don't. I leave them just like they are. If they're not dulled or bent, or if they're bent, they're probably junk anyway, but as long as they're sharp on the tip, I'm not so much worried about that little 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch right on the tip. I'm more worried about what these blades are going to do when they slice through the animal. I want it to cut every single artery and blood vessel it possibly can on its way through, and so that's what I work on. Before I get started, I want to show you the weight of this snuffer first, and don't know if the camera can see that number or not, but I'm going to put this on here and then I'll adjust the camera to focus right on that. You can see that's see if I can zoom in there. That's 120 grain. I know the camera can't see it. Take this off quickly. Bear with me. This snuffer weighs 120 grains, and it has been sharpened several times the old way, and that's why it's about 5 grains under what it should be. And so just to show you what we're going to start with and what we're going to end up with. That's what I wanted to show there. And just as a quick reference, I sharpened one yesterday that started out at 129 grains, and when I got done it weighed exactly 125 grains. So that worked out perfect because I took took 4 grains off, which made it come out an even 125, and that's what I wanted. But these are used, and these will work great for I've got another one over there that's only 112, and so these will be good for turkey, coyotes, you know, as long as I know where the point of impact is going to be, and I'll keep the bigger near perfect 125s for deer, but this will probably lose about 4 grains after we get done shaving some material off. I made a handle here for these broadheads. Basically that's a piece of Osage that I sanded the center out to give me some grip on that while I'm holding it. Keeps it from sliding around in my hand, and glued a 2315 insert into the end of it here to screw my broadhead in. How I did this on the last one, if I couldn't get it excuse me, if I couldn't get it turned around to where it would be perfectly flat on the file, I would just unscrew it around until the first flat was going to be on there. And I hope you can see I had to move the camera again to get a direct view right over top of where I'm working here when I start to sharpen this. First thing you want to do, get some of this stuff out of my way. You want to take a black Sharpie and black the blades out. Black out all the shiny steel that you see, because you want to know how much you're taking off and if it's cleaned up or not. Because right now the angle is not set where it needs to be, and that's what the Snuffer Tamer is going to do for you here. Just black out everything on that blade that's shiny. We don't want to see any of that all the way out to the tip. and that'll tell you when you've got it cleaned off. When you've got it cleaned up, then I'll show you how to finish up with it. But we're gonna knock those blades down on the file until we see shiny again. Okay, and we're set up there ready to go with my handle, and I think I'll reposition the camera and start again. This video may get to be a two-part series. I don't know, we'll see how long it gets. Okay, we're repositioned here and ready to go. You'll be able to see everything that I'm doing right in this area. I'll apologize for the lighting, it's not that great out here. Anyway, I've got some of these little rubber rings that go underneath of the broadhead and around the ferrule here, threaded insert that screws in, and if I could locate one at the moment I'd put one on there, but it's not really necessary. I kind of realized that this was going to be a problem when I made this handle, because it's made to work this way in my hand, and I knew I wouldn't be able to keep rotating that like I could when I had it screwed onto this carbon shaft. All I just simply rotate it, but the problem was there wasn't enough here to hold on to with my hand, and by holding on to that piece of arrow shaft like this, when I would get up to the top of my stroke, I would hit my knuckle on the file, and it would make my broadhead jump off of the files, and that wasn't any good. This way I'm keeping it flat the whole time. So anyway, I back it out until I get it on the first flat, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, screwing it out, so that way I can start here, make one rotation, hit the next set of blades, make the final rotation, hit that set of blades, and then I work my way back out. When I'm done with this series, then I start working back out. There's 2, there's 3, and so on. So, and I have a piece of paper here where I count my rotations on this, and what we're going to do is go 10 strokes on each set of blades, and we're going to do that 5 times, and it's going to take a little more than that to clean it up, but you want to count that number so you're taking these blades down evenly. And I got my broadhead flat. I'm going to go out 1 and then 2 and start there, work my way back, and we're going to count. And this was yesterday's series, so I'm going to put a line there. We'll start down here and just try to maintain flat level contact with your files. I've got this butted up against my vise so it can't get away from me. There's 10. You see what 10 strokes on that did. I can see some bare metal, but I also still see quite a bit of black. That's just the first 10 strokes. By the time we get done, we'll be able to see metal the whole length of that, but you will still see little spots that didn't touch. We'll work on that when we get done here. Okay, that was the first rotation. Now I'm going to give it 1/3 of a turn, hit the next set of blades, 10 strokes. There's 10. Another rotation. This will be the third rotation. Now, that's the first final rotation all the way around, so I'll put a mark. That's one. I'm just going to quickly head back through this. I'm going to give it 1, 2 turns out, start here where we began. You also notice that I'm not pulling this backwards. Don't ever do that, because it'll dull your files. Keep going forward this direction. All the blades on this file are at an angle this way on both files. That's how it cuts. Never drag it backwards, because you're dulling those files by dragging it backwards. And I've just completed my 4th rotation. I've got one more, and then we're going to clean this, get the filings off of it. Building up a nice little pile of shavings there. that was the end of our 5 rotations, 10 strokes per rotation. And you can see that the front part of this one blade hasn't cleaned up yet. That one's clean. That one's clean. This one not quite cleaned up. Same on this side. Almost. We're getting there. And the problem being, if this was a new broadhead that had never been sharpened, all these probably would have been shiny. But since they've been abused by myself, number one, and I bought them used from another person before that, so that person abused them a little bit by whatever method they used to sharpen them rather than doing it the right way. So we have to take off more material in order to even these blades out. And what has happened is, sharpening the old way with a file going like that, we've gotten the angle out of whack from that blade to this blade, because probably when I was sharpening it, I would have been sharpening from this side going across like this, and I was hitting this blade more than that blade, so this blade never really got any of that angle taken off, or I could have hit it harder on the outstroke towards the end of the tip and taken too much off of that one, so that part of that blade is not there anymore. So what it amounts to is we're going to have to take this blade down even more to make this blade even all the way out to the tip. And we got to have shiny, clean surfaces on both blades all the way out, minus that much of the tip that's not touching the file. But from there all the way back, we want that all clean, because it says that the angle is correct. Same here. There's a little bit from about right there out to here that didn't clean up. This one's all clean. Same here. This one's almost all clean. Still got this much from here to here that hasn't cleaned up yet. So I'm going to keep going. I've got my 10 strokes per side 5 times, so that's 50 strokes now for each set of blades. Now I'm going to go back out just like I did. Start with my broadhead in tight. Right there's the first flat. 1, 2 for the third flat, and I'm going to clean this up until I see shiny. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 5 strokes instead of 10 per set of blades. And I'm going to count these rotations as well and check the blades as I go. It's starting to get there. It's that extra 5 strokes pushed it out a little further. We're still not quite there. And at this point I'm going to stop and take a quick break and clean some of the filings off of this, and we'll continue to work on that until all 3 sets of blades are shiny. And it seems like a long process, but you know, I probably don't spend any more time on this than I did before when I was doing it the wrong way, and I ended up with a whole lot sharper broadhead. And I actually enjoy seeing the results when I get done, and have the satisfaction of knowing that I've got a broadhead that's so extremely sharp that you're afraid to touch it because it is just that sharp. And the confidence in knowing that when I put this through an animal, I've done everything that I can possibly do to make a quick, humane kill, and that animal will go down in short fashion. So however much time it takes is what I'm going to put into it, and that's just how I do it. So, and I'm sure most of you guys are the same. You don't mind spending 20 minutes on a broadhead if that's what it takes in order to get it cleaned up right. Now the next time around, now that the angles on these are set, it's not going to take that long to sharpen one up. A few strokes on that file and pull it on the leather back strop here, the leather strop, pull that backwards on there, and it'll probably be hair shaving sharp again, because you don't need to take off all this much material to get those angles set correctly. Right now we're correcting a problem that was created a long time ago. So your first initial round with these broadheads will take a little bit of time to get them all worked up, but once the angles are set, resharpening's a breeze. So take a quick break and turn this into another segment.